They thought they could steal from me. But the joke's on them, because they were paying me to do it. That's exactly what happened when my neighborhood HOA tried to flex their so-called authority. They thought they were making an example out of me, but in the end, they ended up embarrassing themselves in front of the entire community. Let me tell you how it all went down. I live in a fairly upscale neighborhood, the kind with manicured lawns, gated entrances, and, you guessed it, an HOA that thinks they're royalty. Now, don't get me wrong, I actually like where I live. But if you've ever dealt with a homeowners association, you already know they can sometimes go way too far. My house has a decent-sized driveway, big enough for 2 cars. But here's the thing, I'm a car guy. Always have been. Some people collect stamps, some people collect sneakers. I collect cars. I own 6. And not just basic sedans. I'm talking a mix, a classic Mustang, a restored Chevy truck, a Tesla, my wife's SUV, my daily driver, and a little convertible I take out on weekends. Now, the problem started because I didn't want to cram them all into my 2-car driveway. My garage was already full of tools and projects, so I parked a couple along the curb near my house. And that's when the HOA drama began. One morning, I wake up and, no exaggeration, 3 of my cars are gone. At first, I thought maybe they were stolen. My heart dropped. I ran outside, checked my driveway, checked the street. Gone. Then I saw it. 3 bright orange HOA violation notices taped to my door. The note said things like, "Street parking prohibited overnight. Vehicles not in driveway will be towed. Final warning, non-compliance will result in fines and further action." Oh, they weren't stolen. They were towed. By order of the HOA. I was furious. First of all, I had read the neighborhood rules when I moved in. Nowhere did it say I couldn't park on the street as long as it wasn't blocking traffic or a fire hydrant. Second, they didn't even give me a proper warning. They just took my cars. So I called the towing company listed on the notice to find out where my cars were. And this is where things started to get interesting. The woman on the phone asked for my name, and when I gave it, there was a pause. Then she goes, "Sir, you're the owner of this account." That's right. Because here's the thing the HOA didn't know. I own the towing company they use. I started it years ago as a side hustle, and eventually it grew into a full-blown business. We've got trucks, drivers, office staff, the whole deal. And this HOA? They've been one of our clients for about a year. So technically, they didn't steal my cars. They paid me to tow them. At this point, I had 2 options. Call up the HOA president, scream at her, and demand my cars back immediately, play it smart, and let them dig their own hole. I chose option 2. See, I knew the HOA had been overstepping their bounds with other neighbors too. People had complained about ridiculous fines, bogus violations, and unfair treatment. But everyone was too scared to push back. This was my chance to expose them. So instead of rushing in guns blazing, I told my office staff, bill them like normal. Charge them the storage fees. Don't say a word. I'll handle it. And that's exactly what we did. A week later, the HOA held their monthly meeting. Normally, these things are boring. But this time, the room was packed. Word had spread about my cars being taken, and neighbors wanted to see what would happen. The president of the HOA, a woman named Karen, and yes, that's her real name, sat at the front of the room looking smug. She started the meeting by saying, "As you all know, we are cracking down on rule violations to maintain the beauty and order of our community. Certain residents believe the rules don't apply to them. But let me assure you, they do." Then she looked directly at me. I just smiled. When it was my turn to speak, I stood up and said, "Funny thing about those rules. I actually read them. And nowhere does it say you can't park on the street. Which means you had no right to tow my cars." Karen smirked and shot back, "We have the authority to enforce what we feel is best for the community." The room started buzzing. People weren't happy with that answer. That's when I dropped the bomb. I pulled out a stack of papers. "These," I said, holding them up, "are the invoices from the towing company you hired. The The same company that towed my cars. And guess what? That company belongs to me. The room went dead silent. Karen's face turned red. She stammered, That's not possible. You're lying. So I handed copies of the documents to the board members. My name, right there, as the registered owner. Business license, contracts, everything. And then I added, oh, and by the way, every time you order a tow, you pay me, including the storage fees. Which means, technically, you didn't punish me. You just paid me to store my own cars in my own lot. The room exploded in laughter. Karen tried to recover. She started yelling about how I was conflicted and taking advantage of the system. But the other board members weren't buying it. One of them even said, Wait a second, you've been telling us we had to tow cars because of rules that don't even exist? And now we're paying for it out of HOA funds. Neighbors began shouting, This is ridiculous. You've been wasting our money. We want an audit. Karen realized she was cornered. She slammed her papers down and stormed out of the meeting. Within 2 weeks, she resigned as HOA president. The board called an emergency vote, rewrote the rules to be clearer, and even refunded several neighbors who had been unfairly fined or towed in the past. As for me, my cars were returned free of charge. Well, technically, the HOA had already paid me to tow and store them, so I wasn't exactly losing out. So what's the takeaway here? It's simple. Don't mess with people you don't truly understand. The HOA thought they had power. They thought they could bully and intimidate me like they did with everyone else. But in reality, they were just digging themselves deeper into a hole. Because here's the truth. Real power doesn't come from slapping fines on people or abusing authority. It comes from respect, fairness, and treating people right. And when you forget that, well, sometimes you end up paying the guy you're trying to punish. So, what did you think of this story? Imagine Karen's face when she realized she was paying me to tow my own cars. Absolutely priceless. I can still picture the look of shock and disbelief, and honestly, it was worth every second of frustration leading up to that moment. This whole experience taught me something really important. Real power doesn't come from abusing authority, bending rules, or trying to scare people into submission. That kind of power is fake, fragile, and temporary. True power comes from respect, integrity, and the courage to stand your ground when someone tries to push you down. The truth is, people who thrive on control often think they're untouchable, but they forget one thing. The truth always has a way of coming out. And when it does, it doesn't just reveal who they are, it also flips the tables in ways they never see coming. That's exactly what happened here. So if you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more just like it. And remember, never underestimate who you're dealing with, because the person you try to step on today might just be the one signing your check tomorrow.